We hear it all the time. You just have to be unique in order to stand out. And although there is some truth in that, I think a lot of people take it incorrectly. They use it incorrectly. A lot of people either try to do things that are different in order to gain attention, but attention doesn't necessarily mean sales, or they try to create a product or a program that is so unique and so different than everyone else that they either have a process that doesn't really work as well as it should, or people just never even know that the product is unique because they don't know how to communicate it. They don't know how to present it. If I had the most unique product in the world and I put an ad out on Instagram to get people to opt in for my webinar, they're not opting into the webinar because I have the most unique course in the world. They don't even know the course exists yet. So there's something else going on, and I want to dive into that in this episode. So if that's interesting to you, well, keep on listening. Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready, because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about uniqueness. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I've seen over the years, and I know it's been taught, for a while by a lot of people in a lot of different industries that we just need to be unique. And if we're unique, then we'll stand out and we'll generate sales. And although uniqueness is important and it can help, I do see people using it incorrectly. And so I wanted to talk about that on today's podcast because, what I see is a lot of people come into the space, they put out content, they share their best stuff. Sales are not where they want them to be. They feel like they're just like unseen or unheard, right? Unheard entrepreneur. And they think the reason why they're unheard is because they blend in with everyone else, which is true. They probably are. But what they think is that their product or what they do is blending in with everyone else. And it's not. There's something else going on. Let's put it this way. I teach messaging, right? That's what I do. That's what my programs do. They teach messaging. Am I the only messaging expert out there? No, there's a lot of messaging experts. There's a lot of people talking about content and sales and communication. I'm not the only one. So why am I doing so well, and why am I so unique or considered unique? It's not because of the product, although our product is unique. We do have a unique process. But if someone's brand new to me, they're cold, I've never heard of me before, they see an ad of mine and they opt in, they're not opting in because they know and like my process. So again, having a unique process is good. It can help. But if you think just by being unique, you're going to stand out, well, you're still going to most likely have an uphill battle. Uniqueness by itself does not allow you to stand out. And what's happening is there's a lot of people that I see that are just trying to be unique for the sake of standing out. But again, it doesn't drive sales. So I see a lot of people doing weird things in order to get attention and big bright colors and waving their hands or filming videos upside down. And trust me, we've done all of that. I've done all of it. Because I do think being unique can stop the scroll, but if your messaging, your communication, and other things aren't dialed in, you're going to stop the scroll and they're going to keep on going. So you gained the attention, you just don't gain the sale or the follower. And what happens is when a lot of people start focusing on being unique for the sake of being unique, they still have problems with content not resonating. They still have problems with their sales. They still have problems getting people opting in. They still have problems like closing on sales calls because they haven't actually mastered the one thing you need to be unique. And I'll just use myself as an example here. I'm not unique because I teach messaging, and I'm not trying to niche down into something smaller so that I'm the only one doing it. I'm not trying to be so unique that I'm the only one in that space. It's very clear. I'm a messaging expert. I help you with your communications. I can help you grow your business. I can help you with, and messaging will help you with sales, and it'll help you with copy, and it's going to help you with open rates and all that stuff, right? I believe that messaging is the core thing. Again, I'm not the only person teaching messaging. So why do I stand out? Why do people come into my ecosystem? Why do people buy from us? Here's the secret. It's because of how I communicate. It's because of how I talk, how I teach. What I do is not unique. How I do it is unique. How I talk about it is unique. How I teach is unique. Me as a person is unique. And here's the thing. You can be unique. That's fine. You can have a unique process, a unique product, but you still need to understand the problem that you're solving for people. If you don't understand the actual real problem that you solve for people in such a way that when you say it, it literally stops the scroll, then you're going to have problems, because you have to understand we are here to solve people's problems. And if you don't know the problems you solve, you're going to have a hell of a hard time, a really hard time, hell of a time trying to sell something. You have to understand the problems that you're solving for people, number one. So you can have the most unique product in the world, but if you don't know the problems that it's solving for people, you're going to have a really hard time driving sales. Number two, you need the trust. Even if your product is unique, you still need to get the trust from your audience. And there's two types of trust that you need. Number one is you need the human to human trust. Like, oh, I just really trust this person. I really like this person, right? We all heard it. The know, like, and trust. You need that. But again, you need to also gain the second type of trust, which is you need people to trust your ability to solve their problem. I'm telling you right now, no one will buy from you if they don't trust your ability to solve their problem. Let me ask you, how are you supposed to build trust in your ability to solve the problem when you don't even know what problem you're solving for people? You still need people to like you, so you still have to connect with people. And most importantly, you need to have the ability to truly and specifically understand what your audience is dealing with, what they have tried, why they have tried it, what their situation is, and how to communicate it, because that is what's going to drive this sales. That is what creates unique communication. Unique communication encompasses all of those inside of your brand ecosystem. This means ads, webinars, emails, your live streams, webinars, podcasts, all of it needs to incorporate some sort of problems that you're solving for people. You need to gain the both types of trust. You need people to be able to like you. Again, you don't need everyone to like you, but you need your people to like you, the people that you want to attract, the ones that you resonate with. And you need to understand what they're dealing with specifically, so specifically that when they talk, their subconscious, their automatic reaction is, that's me. They're talking about me. Pay attention. They're talking about you. This is our situation. That's what you're doing. That's what you're dealing with. And you need to know how and when to communicate that. So when we look at me, I'm not the only person teaching messaging. What I do is not unique. Yes, I have a different and unique process, and I have a unique solution that I do talk about. But I don't think for a second that just because I have a unique solution that I'm all of a sudden going to drive sales. I need to be able to still be able to present that unique solution in a way that gets people to go like, damn, he's talking about me. This guy gets it. He gets me. There's a couple things that I do to get this sort of communication, to create messaging that is so powerful that people come to their own conclusion that I'm in my own space. Because that's what I do. My job and the way I look at messaging is I need to figure out how to communicate in a way that gets the audience to come to their own conclusion. Yeah, this guy teaches messaging, but he does it in such a unique way. The way he talks about it, the metaphors he uses, the process and how he teaches. All of this stuff creates the uniqueness. And so I'm taking all of this into consideration. So again, I'm not unique because I teach messaging, but how I talk about messaging, how I present myself, the energy that I bring all makes me unique. So there's three main core units that I want to dive into that's going to will help you start your journey of creating your own unique communication. Because again, I'm going to say it one more time because it's really important. It sounds like a broken record here. I'm not unique because I teach messaging. I'm unique because of how I talk about messaging and how I teach it. Okay. So there's three core units that I dive into. Number one is the energy you bring. It's how you teach and how you talk. These are the three things that I focus on. So let's dive into energy. And you have to understand that everyone has an energetic imprint that goes out with their content. And that is being read by your audience, whether they realize it or not. And a perfect example of this is like if I show up inside of my content and I'm very quiet and I'm meek and I'm just kind of like this and shy, and I just say, okay, guys, I'm going to teach you how to do messaging. The energy behind that is very weak. It's very timid. It's not very, you're not going to have a lot of confidence in my ability in whatever I teach. But then if I get up there and I start talking like this, hey guys, today we're going to talk about messaging and I'm going to teach you how to dial it in and get it working. They're two totally different energy imprints on that content, which are being read by my audience. So for me to be able to show up the way that I want to show up, for me to have a strong, confident, energetic imprint, which by the way, will attract people, whether you believe it or not. And a lot of you guys listening right now are experiencing the energy in which I'm putting into this. And it may repel some of you and it may keep some of you, I don't know. But I want to show up confidently in who I am is number one. So if I'm paying attention to the energy I put into my messaging, the energetic imprint that I put in, there's a couple things. Number one, I have to understand who I am. I have to get to the root cause or not the root cause, but the root of who I am before the world told me who I was. And this is an everlasting project, right? Like I'm always finding new and new layers. The way I was raised, who my parents were, the experiences I had when I was a kid, how I was treated when I did something, like if I finally took a stand when I was 12 and stood up for what I believed in and got shot down by my parents every single time, or the teachers or whoever, that's going to leave a lasting imprint on me to like a subconscious imprint of just never show up in what you want to do because you're going to get reprimanded for that. So remembering who I am is going back to that experience, or not even, sometimes you don't even have to go back to the experience. You just have to just say, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not going to be victim to that anymore. And you start to slowly remember who you are. And again, this is a process that you're going to go through your entire life of remembering who you are. The world and your experiences and everything that you've gone through up to this point has molded you into who you are. Good or bad, I don't know, doesn't matter. And so for me, I'm always remembering who I am, because the more I remember who I am, the more powerfully I show up, and the more powerfully I show up in my content, the more people energetically are attracted to that. They come in for that because they have more confidence in my ability to solve their problem. Now, in order to do this, I also sit in a lot of silence. Because when we are silent, we are in the now. We are in the present. When we are silent, we're not letting the monkey mind and the thoughts go wild and crazy. We're not living in the past. We're not living in the future. We're living in the now. And amazing things can happen when we start to live in the now. When we live and practice silence every single day, whether that's in the form of journaling, we just shut the mind off. The mind is not thinking. The mind is not talking. We see amazing downloads happen for me, for my students. We're connected to God's source, whatever you want to call it, something higher than yourselves. Maybe you can, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. We get downloads, we get messages, we get insight. And I'll tell you guys, the number one thing for a lot that I get for my best content, for my best concepts, for metaphors, for realizations that I have and I teach you here on the podcast or in our content or on our Instagram, literally come from silence. I do it in a couple different ways. Number one, I go on walks. I go on walks and don't think about anything and then just see what pops in my head. Or I go on a walk with an intention around a certain problem or a concept, and then all of a sudden, bam, something appears. I meditate. So I sit down in my office or healing room and meditate. I also find moments throughout the day to sit in silence. So maybe it's when I take the kids to the park and I'm sitting on the bench and I have like 10 seconds to sit in silence, and amazing things happen. When I sit in silence, I notice the wind. I notice the crow flying by. I notice the hawk that's been circling for 5 minutes. And I look up what those things mean. I pay attention to the wind. I may sound crazy. I get messages in the wind. Thoughts hit me when I pay attention. The small little 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 second little silence things. Boom, boom, boom. I become aware of what's around me. I have messages all around me all the time. And a lot of that leads me to what I end up teaching you guys here on the podcast in our launches. All of these are moments of silence. Another moment of silence is journaling or sitting down and creating content. Because when I'm journaling and I'm writing and I'm creating and I'm typing things out or writing a document, I'm not thinking about anything other than what I'm doing. I'm just focused on what I'm doing. And then I have this avalanche of just ideas, pop, 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 almost so fast that I can't even write them down. That's the power of silence. And when we tap into this, the energy that we bring into our content goes to an ultimate highest level you've ever seen. And you guys see it all the time. You can tell when you're watching content from someone that knows their shit. You can tell when you're watching content from someone that is powerful. You can tell when you're watching from content someone's brand new. You can tell when you're watching content from someone who isn't totally confident yet. You can tell when you're watching content from someone who has mastery. Why? Because the energy they bring in the content is at a different level than everyone else. I also focus on what I'm afraid to say. When I'm afraid to say something, I know there's a reason why. And I pay attention to that because that also affects my energy. Because if I'm wanting to say something but afraid, that I'm not truly being who I am, remembering who I am, and embracing that inside the brand. So energy is number one. Energy is one of those invisible, important elements of being unique inside of your content, but not being unique for the sake of being unique. When we have powerful energy that attracts and brings in the right people, there is nothing going on that's inauthentic. When we try to be unique for the sake of being unique, it's almost inauthentic. People can feel it. They can sense it. You're just trying to get attention. But when you have uniqueness enriched in your authenticity, in your uniqueness of who you are as a person, as a being, you reach different levels of energy inside of your content. It's pure, it's rich, it's powerful, it's attractive. People like it. They feel good. They feel confident in your ability to help them. They connect with you more. So energy is one of those things that allows you to be unique without being inauthentic and without being unique for the sake of being unique. The second element that I use in order to be unique, because again, as a reminder, I don't try to be unique for the sake of being unique. And I'm not unique because I teach messaging. I'm unique because of the way I talk about messaging, the way I teach messaging, the way in which I communicate is so different, so powerful, so mind-blowing, or for some, dot connecting for others, perspective shifting for some, that allows the audience to come to their own conclusion that Brandon is in his own space. Yeah, Brandon's a messaging expert, but Brandon's the person to go to. I don't have to convince anyone that I'm the best at what I do. And again, I don't know if I'm the best at what I do, but I know I'm pretty darn good at it. And I know I'm just going to continue to get better over the years. But I don't try to convince you of that. I let you come to your own conclusion of that. And I do that because of, one, my energy, but also how I teach. So when I teach, it all starts from really, truly understanding the problems and situations that my audience is finding themselves in, and also understanding what are they trying to do to fix those problems that don't really work. And this podcast episode is a perfect example of that. I understand that some of you guys are having a problem. You're having a problem of not being able to stand out. You put out really great content. You're really good at what you do. Maybe you have a lot of degrees and certifications. Maybe you have a lot of experience. And no matter what you do or what you say, you're just not getting the audience or the sales that you want. Now, I know in order to try to fix that problem, some of you try to be really unique or create something so unique that it's so different that people are just going to flood in. And that doesn't really happen either, right? And that's why I created this podcast episode. Why? Because I truly understand the problems of what my audience is going through. What are they trying to do to fix it that doesn't work? What are they going through? What's the industry telling them? I understand it. I know it specifically. I know exactly what you guys are doing for the most part. And I'm still learning. I'm still discovering new things every single day. But for the most part, I know a lot of it. And so when I teach, it all starts from the problems. I understand the problems and the situations and what you guys are going through and truly understand it, not surface level, generic, generalized. Oh yeah, you're just like overwhelmed because your content's not getting seen. It's like, no, I know that you're posting probably 3 times a week. 70% of your content is probably how-to educational tutorial based. You're probably giving your best stuff away for free. You're probably talking way too much from the solution. I understand a lot of stuff that's going on, right? Number 2 is once I know the problem, I identify the beliefs that you have or the industry norms that are causing the problem. And this is a step that a lot of people don't do. So I understand the problems that you're going through, but I also take time to really dissect what are the beliefs that they have that are causing the problem and what are the industry norms that they think are right, but are actually causing the problem. So again, let's take this podcast episode as an example. I know the problem is, again, probably no one's paying attention to your content, not getting seen, yada, yada, unheard entrepreneur, right? Then I understand, okay, what's the belief that causes it? And I have a whole list of beliefs, and each one of those beliefs can become a podcast episode. So belief number 1, like the belief today is that they believe if they're unique, then they're automatically going to stand out. And if they stand out, then they're going to get sales. And that's not really the case. You know, like anyone can be unique and get attention. I could wear a thong tomorrow and put it on my Instagram. And guess what? It's probably going to get the most likes, comments, and reactions that I've ever gotten on my Instagram, even though I put some really good fucking stuff on my Instagram. It gets like 3 likes. Me and thong will probably get the most, right? Is it going to drive sales though? No, probably not. Unless I start an OnlyFans or something like something like that. But it's not going to drive more sales to my messaging program. So I understand that being unique is not, even though that people believe that being unique is not the thing that's going to automatically drive the sales. Even though you're unique, you still have to be intentional with what you're doing and how you're communicating and what your messaging is. So I understand that. It allows me to be a better teacher. It allows me to create better content. It allows me to be more relevant. It allows me to do something that I call dot connecting. It allows me to connect the dots for you. It allows me to give you ahas. It allows me to give you mind-blowing experiences. It allows me to give these moments of you saying like, oh, I never realized that before. Oh, he's right. So when I can start with the problem and then I can say, here's what you're likely doing. Here's the belief that you had. And you guys have to remember when things are a belief, you can always discredit that. You can always poke holes in it. You can always give a better way. And that's what I do. So a lot of our content, a lot of our webinars, a lot of our live launches, when you guys watch our lives, you'll notice that a lot of what I do is like, here's the problems you're having. Here's likely what you're doing. Here's likely your beliefs. That's usually how I start a lot of our launches because it gets people into a place of like, holy shit, this guy understands me. This guy is speaking to my soul. This guy understands what I'm doing. Where's the video camera? Because he must be watching me. That's the experience I give people right at the beginning of our webinars. And then I do the big reveal of like, here's why this is happening. Here's the metaphors. Here's the counterexamples. Here's this or that. And I present the solution and then I back up the solution. And that leaves people going like, holy shit, I've never realized all that. And he's totally right. Because I understand the depths of what everyone is going through and I know how to connect it all. And that leads me to the third thing of when I teach is I always usually start with like identifying the problems. I identify why is that problem happening? What are they doing to try to fix this problem? What's the belief they have? What's the industry norm? How do I discredit that? And then when I present the solution, anytime I ever teach something, I always back it up. I back it up with a story, a personal example, a metaphor, a counterexample, something, right? So I don't just teach and move on and assume you're going to believe me because I'm the one teaching. I make sure that you believe me automatically, subconsciously. So if I said how-to content is one of the worst ways to build a business online, you have to be using thought reversals and belief-based content. And I'll say, look at Gary Vaynerchuk. He's growing the fastest out of anyone probably and doesn't use a lot of or any how-to content. I taught something and then I backed it up using a counterexample. If I said how-to content is one of the worst ways to gain traction, I could say, that's why encyclopedias never hit the best-selling charts. New York Times and whatever. They're filled with great information, but they never hit the top charts. And then I reveal the solution. I say, the solution is perspective shifting content. That's why TED Talks do so well. TED Talks educate, right? But you always leave looking at something differently than you did before. It's powerful. It moves people. And people are like, oh my God, he's totally right. But all I did was make two statements, which was how-to content is not how to build a business, and perspective shifting content is. Now, the way most people communicate is those are the two lines they'll say and they move on. I don't do that. I don't just say two lines like that as statements and then move on. I'm constantly saying something, backing it up, saying something, teaching something, backing it up, saying something, backing it up, metaphors, examples, stories, counterexamples, all day long. That's what I do. And that gives me uniqueness because I become a better teacher. So again, I don't intentionally try to be unique for the sake of being unique. I don't have this. I have a unique solution and unique process that I know works, but I didn't create that process just because I wanted to be unique. I do want to have my own process, but I figured out a process that works. But the way in which I talk about the process, market the process, advertise the process, teach the process in itself is unique because no one is talking about messaging in the way that I talk about it. Therefore, I become unique. I become different. I'm able to connect with people more. So let's recap 1 and 2. Number 1 is our energy is one way to become unique. We have to have that mastered. Number 2 is how you teach is also how you become unique inside of your space. Teach differently. Become different, right? And then the last and final one is how you talk. And this is what I call messaging. So how you talk within your brand also makes you unique. And I'm going to give you a couple steps and tips here. Like I can't dive into everything messaging wise. That's what our programs are for. But I can give you some basic ones here. So number 1 is a normal communication pattern that I'm still mastering, especially in my relationship with my wife and my kids, people I deal with the most on a day-to-day basis, is validating their reality, validating their experience, their emotions, even though it may be different than, and almost always is different than my reality, my experience. I validate it, accept it, listen to it. But I do the same thing with my audience. I do the same thing as a coach. In a webinar or a launch, this may look like you talking about like, look, I know you're here and this is what you've been dealing with. And this is probably what you're thinking and probably what you're feeling. And I want you to know that that is normal. That is a normal thing. And it's okay to be going through that. Today, we're going to talk about how to overcome that. That right there is a form of validating their experience. But guess what? You can't do that unless you actually know the specifics of who you're talking to and how to talk to them, right? So validating is one of the most important things you can do in communication, getting out of your perspective, out of your reality, and really tapping into the other person on the other side. Now, again, that's harder when you're dealing with thousands of people inside of your audience or however many it is, but find the thing that most of them are going through, most of them are thinking, the most of them are feeling, and you can validate that. Number 2 is getting specific. The more specific you are to someone's situation, the more relatable or relevant you become to them. The more relevant you become to someone, the more they feel connected to you, the more they feel like they're in the right place, the more they start to trust your ability to solve their problem. You know, I always tell the example of the doctor. So if you guys had stomach pain from 7:30 at night to 8:30 at night, last 1 hour, and it's extreme, and you don't know what it is, and it's been going on for 2 weeks, and you walk into the doctor's office and the doctor takes one look at you and says, oh, let me guess, stomach pain started 2 weeks ago, starts at 7:30 at night, ends at 8:30 at night. You're probably gonna be like, doctor, how did you know that? Oh my God, that's exactly what I deal with. And that doctor says, well, good luck with it, and walks away. What are you gonna do? You're gonna chase that doctor down. Doctor, how do I solve this? How do I fix this? That doctor never showed you any testimonials, case studies, never told you about their degrees, their certifications. Doctor never even said they had a solution. But because they demonstrated such a specific understanding of what you were dealing with, you came to your own conclusion that they could solve it. The trust in their ability to solve your problem went through the roof. Side note, did you guys notice that doctor thing is just an analogy. It's a metaphor. And the reason why I used it was because I made a statement. I said, you have to get specific. Specific is going to allow you to create more trust in your ability to solve the problem. And then I went right to a metaphor. You guys notice how I'm even teaching on this podcast? All the things I'm telling you to do, I'm doing on this podcast, right? And what that does is it moves to the next thing we need to do is subconscious communication. Because when I back things up like that, it allows you to automatically, subconsciously agree and understand what I'm saying. You get to see, oh my God, he's right. I present information in a way that makes sense, connects dots for you, but also can't really be argued against because I try to speak as much truth as I can. I try to teach as much truth as I can. I feel like sometimes like a lawyer creating a case for my teachings. I'm not just going to teach and then assume you're going to believe me because I'm the one teaching. I want you, your subconscious and you to both agree like, oh my God, that makes sense. I can see how this works. I can see the importance of this. This makes sense to me. I teach in a way that almost anyone listening, it will make sense to automatically. So subconscious communication is number one. Obviously, we teach this inside of our programs. So if you're not sure how to do that, well, maybe you should join one of our programs one day. And then the last one, and I have to give credit where credit is due because this is a new one for me. I got this from Catherine Beck, who helped me. It was my voice, helped me with my voice and presenting and things like that. Where she said, we want you to start talking on podcasts and webinars and things like that as if you're having a one-to-one conversation with someone, not like you're in a group speaking to a lot of people. Because what I noticed is on podcasts and webinars, it was like shouting. It was like trying to talk to 1,000 people at once. But now I had to slow down and ground myself and communicate as if I was talking to one person. And that has helped me become unique because it also helps with the energy. It goes back to the energy, calm, grounded, confident, powerful energy. So those are the three things: is energy, how I teach, and how I talk. Create this environment, this brand, this messaging, this communication that allows me to be unique without having to be unique for the sake of being unique, without trying to gain people's attention and doing weird things like wearing a thong. Which, by the way, I do have a video on my YouTube channel where I wore a Speedo, goggles, and flippers in my backyard. I'm not going to tell you where it is, but it's on the YouTube channel somewhere, and it was from years and years years ago. It's in one of the tutorials we did back in the day. But with that being said, when we can learn to master these things, we start to create an environment where your audience comes to their own conclusion, like, wow, they are in their own space. No one else talks about the stuff that they talk about in the way they talk about it. It has a really powerful energy to it. It automatically makes sense to me. I'm getting ahas. They understand what I'm doing. They understand me on a different level. It creates a really unique environment because I'll be honest with you, it takes time to master all of those things. But when you do, you'll never have to worry about sales again. Because you have people coming to their own conclusions like, shit, no one's talking about this in the way this person's talking about it. They are unique. So you don't become unique because of your offer or your product or your process, which again, are important. I don't want to dismiss that. It is important to have stuff that is unique. But if we sit there and think that just because you have a unique product, you're going to automatically make sales, you're still going to have an uphill battle. And there's a lot of really unique products that solve a problem for people that just sit on shelves. They don't sell. So hopefully this was valuable to you. Hopefully this provides a lot of insight for you. And as always, I love to hear all the reviews that you guys have for us. We haven't had a review on the podcast in a while. So I'm going to ask you guys for a favor. If you can, if you love this episode, if you love the podcast and you haven't left us a review, please head over to iTunes, leave us a review. I absolutely love reading them. And I will see you all next week for another episode. Take care, everyone. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested, and thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.